Welcome to the Cassandra Chaos demo. In this demo, we're going to cover how a Cassandra cluster recovers from failure conditions. To get started, let's review our environment. We already have a Cassandra cluster up and running. It's composed of 3 Apache Cassandra nodes. These nodes are each running on separate cloud-managed Kubernetes workers, 1 node per AZ in a regional deployment. Our first test will show how Cassandra responds to the loss of an instance via deleting the pod. So here we can see the CAS operator running along with our 3 Apache Cassandra nodes. This first one right here should be running in US Central 1A on GCP. And we want to get, well, we just want to delete it. So let's click the delete button, remove, and it immediately disappears. And we can see the status is terminating. Now the Kubernetes stateful set controller replaces the pod with a new pod. Since we're using persistence volumes, the data is reconnected to the pod. Should this pod end up rescheduled on a different worker, the persistent volume will either have to move when possible, or we could run some replace node logic that brings up an empty pod and recovers its data from replicas on other nodes. In either case, once the pod is restarted, the CAS operator handles bootstrapping the node and monitoring progress. Here we can see our init containers have already finished coming up. That's why these 3 are gray. Our server system logger is up and running, and the Cassandra container is running. The Cassandra container is made up of a management API and the actual Cassandra process. So if we click on this container and look at the logs, we can see our management API logs right here. We go to server system logger, and these are the actual logs of the node. As the node comes up, it reaches out to a service to discover the rest of the nodes of the cluster, opens connections to those nodes, and finishes its bootstrapping process. So we see it just went green. The startup is complete. If it missed any data while it was down, the other nodes in the cluster will handle sending those hints over, and we're good to continue. So now that our pod is back up, let's take a look at another failure type, that of the Kubernetes worker. In this scenario, we'll log into our Cloud Console and terminate one of the worker instances. So we're going to target that same node that just came back up, and we go here and look at the node identifier, and that is CCFA-DK68. So if I switch over to my console, I already have it selected here, and we're just going to delete the instance. And now we have to type delete. Okay, and so this instance is just going to go down. Now, it's worth noting that we have 9 nodes total in this Kubernetes cluster, so there's plenty of capacity to reschedule on. We don't have to worry about waiting for a new instance to come back up. But in some cases, and in some environments, maybe you have auto-scaling groups set up, you may have to wait for the new worker to get reprovisioned and come online. Now, like we mentioned earlier, the storage will actually have to be disconnected from this host and then connected to wherever the pod gets rescheduled. So we're going to go back here. We should see the readiness probe fail here shortly, and then the Kubernetes control plane will handle rescheduling this pod. Okay, the probe has failed, which is to be expected. We just deleted the instance that was running it, and it says that the node is down. So we'll give this a moment to run. Check our Cloud Console. It says the instance is being deleted. We can refresh and see how progress is going there. Oh, it's still in the process of deleting. That's great. We should see this go orange as it gets rescheduled and is pending initialization. Now Kubernetes is giving a little bit of time in case that node is flapping. Maybe it comes back, then it won't have to move volumes around. But we'll see here shortly it gets rescheduled. And one of the ways we can check that is to look at the node value here. It's still the node that we deleted, so we want to give that a little bit longer. And then we'll also check the events. We'll most likely see an event where the storage gets moved as well when the pod is rescheduled. There we go. Notice how we're all orange now. And if we scroll up here, we can see now we're scheduled on a new node, 681N. But it's within the same group. That's because it's within the same AZ as the previous Kubernetes worker. And we do that because we want to make sure that we have our data replicated across failure boundaries. That would be an individual Kubernetes worker, the AZ, or even a region. All these containers say waiting because we're waiting for the storage to move over. That's what this error message here is we're trying to attach the volume from the old node to this new one, and it's blocking that. And that's going to happen for a little bit. It happens with eventually consistent systems, at least on the cloud provider side. It should just be a few minutes. In any case, as the human operator involved here, I don't actually have to do anything. The cloud provider and the Kubernetes control plane, along with the CSI, will sort attaching the volume to the right worker and then starting the process. One of the other things you can do is you can go look at that instance. That's 681 November, and we can see the progress of moving that volume by looking at the additional disks field. So if we scroll down here, we can see the boot disk, and there are no additional disks. So that API call to move the disk to this worker will retry periodically. We just have to be patient. While we're waiting for it to reschedule, we can take a look at the containers involved here. We have our base config init, which pulls the base configuration from our Cassandra image. And then we run this server config init, which uses the Cas config builder to render out the configuration files on disk. It takes in a blob of JSON as an input and turns that into a collection of configuration files within a volume. This other container sets up a JMX credentials file within the pod. And then our other two containers are the actual Cassandra container, which contains the management API, as well as the Cassandra daemon, and the server system logger, which tails var log Cassandra system.log. And that way we can get both the logs of the management API process and the Cassandra process via kubectl. And we're just waiting for this event to clear. Go back, see if it's showing up in here. Nope, we still don't have the additional disk yet, so still waiting on the CSI here. Okay, another event that it's still waiting to attach the volumes. There's a timeout involved, that's okay. Still waiting for that volume to move over, and that's okay. Now it's worth noting that while this node is down, hints are accruing on the other nodes for any queries or writes that are coming into the system and that would target that node. But since it's unavailable, they'll just hold on those hints for a period of time. When that node comes back up, we can see our PV has attached now. When that node comes back up, it'll replay those hints against the node to bring it up to speed with the current state of data. Now there's a number of anti-entropy systems present within Cassandra to account for these types of issues. We just let those systems run to keep things in sync, whether that be at query time, whether it be through the out-of-band repair process, this hint mechanism. It's a layered approach to keeping data consistent across the multiple nodes. Okay, so the fact that the volume attached is a really good sign. It's just going to take one more moment, and I bet if we refresh the screen over here, we can see that additional disk will show up now. If we scroll down, there's our disk that has our data. Back in here, and we should see these start to clear here shortly. We'll go down to the initializers. We'll just watch these status fields right here. All right, we see it's pulling the images now, which means all the volumes are attached. It's ready to actually start. So if we scroll up, we can see when these actually fire. So that one's already finished, completed with exit code 0. Now we have the server config init, or the Cas config builder image. It's going to fire off. It's running. It's writing files out to disk. It's pulling things like the host IP and the pod IP from the pod ref, pod status. And now finally, we're running the management API. If we go over here and look at the logs for the Cassandra container, these are the logs of the management API. And we can actually see it's already received the start command from the Cas operator. If we go over here to server system logger, we see the logs are populated. So this is where it's reaching out, it's gossiping with its peers, getting the topology of the cluster from the other nodes. And we will see it turn green here shortly. And there we go. We're now listening for connections and startup is complete. So over the course of this demo, we've highlighted the failure of pods in a Cassandra cluster, along with its automatic reconciliation. Cassandra supports multi-cluster deployments where a failure could happen at the node, AZ, or even regional level while still keeping your data safe and streamlining operations. Thank you so much for attending this demo. We have a bunch of other demos at our booth, and join us over at cassandra.io. Thank you so much.